Welcome to the Servant Leaders Mindset Podcast, where we are changing lives through servant leaders. Up next,
Build psychological safety. Teams perform best when people feel safe to speak up, take risks, and admit mistakes. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Lena Holmes, and this is the Servant Leaders Mindset Podcast. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into a topic that sits at the heart of every thriving organization, and that is values-driven leadership. Values-driven leadership is not just some business concept. In other words, having values are not enough because we all have values, whether we care to acknowledge them or not. We live by our personal values every single day. When I talk about values-driven leadership, I need to clarify that an organization's established core values must be altruistic in nature, meaning that they need or they should provide maximum benefit for all stakeholders. For example, I once worked for an organization that had a consultant come in to facilitate a new strategic plan. After some analysis and during the strategic planning process, the majority of the leadership decided to delete the organization's stated core value of integrity and substitute it with a new core value of building relationships. I thought it was the most disturbing thing I'd ever heard. However, I did not stay silent on this issue. During a private meeting, I asked one of the most influential leaders of the group how anyone could build relationships without having integrity. He could not answer the question with any reasonable explanation. After that meeting, they tried to adjust some of the other core values to sort of imply the concept of integrity, but removing and replacing it signaled to employees that it was no longer a priority. Therefore, I believe that by de-emphasizing integrity as a core value, they created a pervasive lack of trust among employees and leaders. Having assisted many organizations with their strategic planning process, the one thing I always emphasize is that their core values must begin with the concept of integrity. Even if they don't use the word integrity, that core value must be implicit and explicit in their core value statements. If you've ever wondered why some companies have earned unwavering loyalty and are able to rise above a crisis while others crumble, the answer often lies in the core values of their leaders. Now, let me set the scene for you. Imagine two organizations. They both have great products, clever marketing, and talented people. But when the pressure builds and the economy shifts or a scandal breaks out, one company pivots with grace and honesty, while others get caught cutting corners and they lose trust both internally and externally. What makes the difference? I'm here to tell you today that it is values-driven leadership that makes the difference. Now, when I talk about values-driven leadership, I'm talking about those values that are consistent with servanthood. Values are not simply what you give voice or lip service to, but values are those non-negotiable principles that are consistent with or in alignment with a person's behavior. Research shows that organizations aligning their actions with deeply held values see higher earnings, improved productivity, stronger employee engagement, and better customer loyalty. Due to values-driven leadership, Jason's Deli, a national restaurant chain with servant leaders, recorded a 6% jump in job performance, an 8% rise in customer satisfaction, and a 50% surge in staff retention. In over a decade, companies led by servant leaders enjoyed higher average returns, far outpacing their peers. Jason's is not just an isolated case. Tech giants like Microsoft have transformed their company culture by employing empathy and integrity sensitivity. Under the CEO, Satya Nadella, Microsoft's market value more than tripled as he embedded empathy and integrity and purpose into every decision that they made. Conversely, when leaders chase short-term goals at the expense of altruistic values, the fallout is catastrophic. Although there are many Two glaring examples include the well-known Enron and Theranos debacles. Today, I'm going to make a persuasive argument for what I am calling altruistic values-driven leadership, not just values-driven leadership as a buzzword or a concept or theory. From henceforth, I will be using the concept of values-driven leadership interchangeably with altruistic values-driven leadership. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines the term altruistic as having or showing an unselfish concern for the welfare of others. Sounds like servant leadership to me. You listen till the end of this podcast. Here's what you're going to learn. Number one, some compelling reasons why values-driven leadership works. And number two, a clear framework to help you start leading with your core values and transform your workplace for the better. Sound like a plan? Then let's jump in. Here are some compelling reasons why values-driven leadership works. It enhances employee engagement and retention. When people feel that their leaders care about them and stand for something more than just profits, they stay and they give their best. By aligning culture around shared principles, organizations tap into discretionary effort, creativity, and long-term loyalty. It builds trust and reputation. Values-driven leaders build internal and external trust. A trust is a currency not only of businesses, but of nonprofits, government organizations, and public institutions. Surveys reveal that nearly 40% of customers direct their spending toward brands whose values match their own. In the nonprofit sector, donors expect the same alignment. Organizations like Charity Water have built enormous trust by openly sharing where every dollar goes, while other nonprofits hide how donations are spent. One example of how the lack of transparency can hurt an organization is the controversy that plagued the Wounded Warrior Project. The Wounded Warrior Project faced significant controversy in 2016 due to allegations of lavish spending and financial mismanagement. This firestorm led to the termination of its top executives. Despite these challenges, the organization has since restructured and improved its financial practices, aiming to regain or to rebuild trust and focus on supporting veterans. When leaders consistently walk the talk, their companies, nonprofits, and agencies attract customers, donors, citizens, and talent and investors who believe in what they are doing. Meanwhile, organizations that forsake integrity for short-term gains face scandals, legal trouble, and loss of public support. The Theranos controversy revolves around the fraudulent claims made by the company. Founded by Elizabeth Holmes, the company claimed that it had developed a revolutionary blood testing technology. Theranos misled investors and patients about the accuracy and the reliability of its tests, leading to its eventual collapse and legal consequences for its leaders. In both nonprofit and private sectors, the fallout of these kinds of companies destroy jobs, wipe out billions in corporate value or donor contributions, and leave a legacy of mistrust. The lesson is clear. Leading without altruistic values risks everything, whether you're running a business, a nonprofit, or a public institution. Contrastingly, let's look at Charity Water's transparent model. This nonprofit, which provides clean water to communities in need, made transparency one of its core values. Its 100% model promises that all public donations go directly to water projects, while separate funds cover operating costs. The organization even provides a GPS coordinates and photos for each project so donors can see exactly where their contributions are going. The level of openness has built enormous trust and has allowed Charity Water to grow exponentially since it was founded. This story and others illustrate that values aren't just slogans, They are actually operational guidance. When leaders in both the private and nonprofit sectors embody their principles, their organizations follow. Now, let's talk about how leaders can practice or execute values-driven leadership. Here's a simple framework that you can begin to adapt in your role in your organization. First of all, you must clarify core values. Naturally, before you can lead with values, you need to know what they are. Start by identifying 3 non-negotiable altruistic values that guide or that will guide your decisions. These might include values such as integrity, empathy, accountability, courage, service, or whatever matters to you and the mission of your organization. Write them down, obviously. Then, for each value, prioritize them and then describe what it looks like in action. Now, many people know how to write them down and prioritize them, but they have difficulty with describing what this looks like in action. For example, a core value of integrity might mean to someone, I tell the truth quickly, even when it's uncomfortable. Empathy, I pause to understand before I seek to be understood. Courage might be operationalized by saying, I do that which benefits my employees and customers over and above my personal goals, even if it costs me. These are just some examples. Keep the definitions concise. The goal is to turn abstract values into tangible or operational behaviors that you can practice each and every day. Secondly, model consistency. People watch what leaders do more than what they say. This means you must walk the talk. Make decisions that align with your values, even when it's inconvenient. If transparency is a value, share the reasoning behind tough choices that you've made or decisions that you've made. Explain, communicate. If accountability is important, own your mistakes publicly and use them as a learning opportunity. We live in a society where people never admit their mistakes. When you consistently practice what you preach, you build trust and reduce uncertainty within your team. Consistency also means applying values across all relationships, not just upward and outward. You need to treat direct reports, peers, and customers and vendors the same, or give them the same respect and the same honesty every day. Number 3, embed values into your systems. Values should not only live on the wall of organizations, but companies and organizations need to integrate them into hiring practices, performance evaluations, and budgets. During interviews, company can ask candidates about ethical dilemmas they faced and how they handled them. Another example is to align bonuses and recognition with employee behaviors that reflect your core values by rewarding collaboration, not just individual results. When setting budgets or timelines, weigh speed and cost against your values. Cutting a quality step to save money can or might conflict with integrity or customer-centeredness. By building values into your systems or building them into systems, you make it easier for everyone to practice them more consistently. Number 4, I'm going to call this probably one of the most important ways in which you can implement values-driven leadership. Build psychological safety. Teams perform best when people feel safe to speak up, take risks, and admit mistakes. Servant leadership research shows that psychological safety facilitates much of the performance gains we see under values-driven leaders. To foster psychological safety, you must, first of all, listen deeply and encourage everyone to share ideas and concerns without actually fear or punishment. Celebrate learning. Instead of reprimanding failure, focus on what subordinates can do differently the next time. Or if you make the mistake, what you can do differently next time. Invite dissent. Ask team members to challenge your thinking. When they know you have honesty or that you value honesty over agreement, they'll help you make better decisions. When employees trust you, they'll give more of themselves, and performance will ultimately follow. Practice servant leadership behaviors. Key servant leadership practices include empowering others, delegate authority, and provide the resources people need to succeed. Also, helping others to grow, invest in coaching, mentoring, and provide promotional opportunities. Also, to practice emotional healing and be present and supportive when team members face personal or professional challenges. Humility, acknowledge when you don't have all the answers and invite your team to share their expertise. These behaviors build trust and inspire teams to go above and beyond. Servant leader behavior also includes to communicate your purpose clearly. Your values become embodied when it's tied to a meaningful mission. Leaders need to clarify how your team is contributing to the larger purpose. When people see how their contributions matter, they're more motivated to carry out the mission. And then also, a very important step is to monitor and adjust. Cultures evolve. To become authentically values driven, you must measure your progress. You can use surveys to gauge gaps between employee perceptions of the culture and the leadership's desired culture. There are many tools that can measure cultural decline. Your analysis should measure where core values are and are not embodied in the institution. Review these metrics regularly and adjust them accordingly. If you notice a rising friction or dropping engagement, revisit your value systems of execution and involve your team in those solutions. In conclusion, values-driven leadership isn't a trend, it's a proven pathway to sustainable success. When leaders model their values and embed them in systems, they cultivate trust and put stakeholders first. On the contrary, ignoring values risks reputational damage, disengagement, and failure. So now you've learned why values-driven leadership matters, and you have been given practical steps to get started with using this model. Now it's your turn. Here's your challenge. Choose 3 non-negotiable personal core values this week and align them with your institution's core values. Then define one behavior for each so you can start practicing immediately. Share those values with your team and invite them to hold you accountable. This simple act can spark a cultural shift. Believe me. Thank you for listening. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with other fellow leaders and subscribe for more conversations on how to lead with courage, purpose, and integrity. Until next time, keep aligning your actions with your values and watch the transformation unfold. Bye for now.